conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
Kia ora, I'm Zoe George, and welcome to the June episode of Fair Play, a podcast covering women in sport, from athletes and results to current affairs and issues.
Wisp Sports Radio is brought to you by Highlands Earache Drops.
Earaches are one of the primary causes for doctor visits, with over 30 million visits per year. After you've been diagnosed with an earache by a physician, try Highlands Homeopathic Earache Drops and Tablets. Highlands has been trusted for generations to provide safe, effective homeopathic medicines for all members of the family. Highlands Homeopathic Eardrops and Tablets provide natural relief to help you get back to doing what you love. Visit highlands.com/ear-pain to find a retailer near you. That's highlands.com/ear-pain. Claims are based on traditional homeopathic practice, not accepted medical evidence. Not FDA evaluated. Read and follow label directions.
This month, sports psychologist Karen Nimmo gives us some tips on being assertive. We celebrate Pride Month with the Central Pulse netball team, and we find out what the heck is pickleball. Plus, of course, a bit of cricket and an update on the toilets at the Basin Reserve. Shortly, we'll meet today's co-host, but if you want to join the conversation, you can on social media at Wisp Sports, at RNZ, and at producer_Zoe. And if you want to listen to some amazing, engaging, award-winning podcasts, head over to rnz.co.nz, and for some more sport, wispsports.com. Well, we're all going a bit football mad at the moment with the Football World Cup happening in Russia. Although it's a competition for men, of course we're going to make it about women. RNZ's resident football buff and fellow music geek, Yadana Saw, is this month's co-host. Kia ora, Yadana, welcome.
Kia ora, Zoe, thanks for having me.
So we will talk a little bit about Football World Cup and women's engagement with that. But first I wanted to talk about women's football here in New Zealand, because there's been a bit of drama of late with the Football Ferns. So what's actually happened? The coach has been
put on special leave.
Right.
Andreas Hiraf, who is the technical director of New Zealand football and the Football Ferns coach, has been put on special leave after receiving a letter via the Players Association signed by 13 players citing some discontent and complaints about conduct and behaviour with the team.
Right, and this came after they played against
Japan. So there was an international friendly at the Wellington Stadium just a couple of weeks back, 2 or 3 weeks back, before the World Cup kicked off in earnest, the Men's World Cup that is, and it was a record crowd. It was the biggest crowd that the Football Ferns had ever attracted. We were looking at about maybe, just off the top of my head, around the 7,500 mark for spectators. Heaps of kids there, heaps of families, and also it was the first time that the Football Ferns had played for decades in Wellington as well. So, and it was a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Everyone was very excited to be there. We all turned up and watched.
It was one of the worst games you've ever seen, isn't it?
I think it's one of the worst games many people had seen of any gender or of any level.
So what actually happened?
You know, with most team sports, you've got to play like a team. The Football Ferns, they are players who play internationally. They are,
they're world class.
They're world class. I think Japan ranks at about 11, I believe, and the Football Ferns are sitting around 20. What happened was that the coach basically put in an incredibly defensive strategy, and I'll just paraphrase his approach, which was that, we're playing a team that is ranked higher than us, so let's just not try and let's just minimise the goal damage against us. So what you saw there was 11 players who were second-guessing their first touch. They weren't passing it to each other. They didn't know what to do. In all the history of football I've ever played or have ever watched, I have never seen a team at kickoff kick it forward to away to the outline, far over to the other goal with no one chasing it. 3 times.
Wow. So what happens? This is where we need to.
Sorry,
bring in...
I actually even screamed in the mic there because I've never.
I can hear how frustrated you are, and it is frustrating, particularly when it was a friendly game. And so what if we conceded a few goals? It was about working on our skills and growing that. And the fact they had a turnout audience is brilliant. Karen, I'm going to bring you in here. We've got Karen Nimmo, a sports psychologist. When something like that happens, and we have to go against all our being, how do we be assertive and speak up about that without annoying people or touching on a nerve?
It's a tricky situation, isn't it? I mean, if you think, first of all, what assertiveness is, that's being able to clearly ask or state what you want and need. But the piece that people miss out is it's also about factoring in the other side of the argument. So as well as stating what you need, you also have to be reasonable. Now, when that occurs, when these sort of things occur in a sporting environment, it can be really tricky because, as you know, they're complex places, and speaking up is often dependent on the environment, the position that you have within that environment and the relative power. So, for example, your age, if you're young, it's hard. If you're older, you might have some more mana within that, but it still can be tricky if you're not the best player or whatever. And also the people around you. So, depending on the coach's attitude, the support systems you have, do you have managers and things that stick up for you, that kind of thing. So it's incredibly complex. It's not as easy as to just say, let's be assertive. It's examining all those various things and then being able to speak within that.
The fact that the players stood up and acknowledged this with a letter that New Zealand football has now acted on, that's a bit of a positive, assertive move, right?
It's totally an assertive move, but I wonder myself why it has to come to Players Association level. That's quite sad, isn't it? What was going on in the management structure that means it had to go to that level? So if you have really good support within a team environment, often those things can be sorted out before they get that bad. Now, in this case, I agree with you. I think it does look pretty bad. But, there are things I think that they'll also have to look at in terms of what went wrong, why something couldn't have been mediated earlier than this.
And this is just, a few weeks after New Zealand football had just struck a pay parity deal between its men's team and its women's team. And some of the allegations I've heard was that the culture that Heraf had created was one of bullying, intimidation and fear. What a staff reporter said on the record, that there were things as training camp, the players had to ask to leave the table after meals and things like that. So this is the sort of level that we're talking about of treating essentially professional players. It just seems very inconsistent with a pay parity deal and then also having to ask to leave the table at a training camp, to me.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, football has got a few things to look at, though. For example, why is the coach also the technical director? Those kind of issues are probably on top of, what's going on within the team. Sometimes things around dinners, we don't know the full story, but they can be, just part of team protocol, like everybody leaves the table at the same time. So we don't know the proportion of it. Now, if there's a whole lot of those kind of things going on within the environment, then that's bad. And they certainly have a lot of things to address.
And throughout history, and I'm sure in many other codes, but certainly in football, this isn't just in the women's game that we see such a top-down structure from management to players or a squad when they're away training or away in tournament time as well. So it's not certainly something particularly against women here.
I think you're right. Historically and through society, there are all sorts of things behind it. But I do think with women's sport, we have to actually start to really speak up about having more women in the managerial environments. It's not acceptable to have, for example, even just a woman as a coach and then a whole lot of men below that and then a women's team. Women often don't speak up. Why aren't there not female psychologists, female assistant coaches, female strength and conditioning experts? Why are they so top-heavy in terms of male representation? To my mind, that's not right, and it's time that women spoke up more clearly for their own sort of needs.
How do we stand up for that without coming across as aggressive?
A good point. Very good point. I think the key to it, first of all, is clarity. You know, we have to know what we want. And you'd be surprised, people come to see a psychologist and you'll say, you know, how can I help you? What do you want? And they'll go, I don't want to feel like this. You see what I mean? So the first thing is to be very clear around what you want, and to be open-minded. So you don't go in with a position of, I must win this argument. You must also be a good listener. It's like being an interviewer, isn't it? You can't just be good at talking. Otherwise it will be a very boring interview. You also have to be good at listening. So listening, clarity, and then being able to express yourself calmly without overreacting. Because we all know when we're under attack, we can tend to get a bit defensive. So it's really good to know your own reactive style and then to be able to put some things on top of that to counter anything that you might feel when you're under stress or attack.
Yes, knowing your own reactive style is interesting. Can you change that? You know, many of us, like you said, we kind of get our backs up, we can be quite combative. How do we change that to be more assertive?
The very first step is to know what it is. Now, you'd be surprised how little people understand that. You know, I'll do lots of reactive tests with people and, you know, they won't know much more about themselves other than, well, I go into my cave or I go quiet. You know, you have to understand what's happening when your trigger points get hit. And so as soon as you know that, there's a great power in understanding your own reactions. Okay, so here we go. I'm feeling myself defensive. I can hit the pause button and then I can roll out my pre-planned speech about what I actually do want, if you see what I mean. So self-knowledge is a massive power. And in psychology, that's one of the things that we're most often looking to teach people.
Karen, is part of that strategy also not having to react in the moment, but giving yourself time? Because I noted you said you pause. So is that you give yourself that you take over the timing of things and be assertive of how things roll out, not necessarily just what you say?
Yeah, great point. That's the key, isn't it? I'm a big advocate for the pause, or just to take a little bit of time or a minute, because that's the gap in which we can actually pull ourselves together and then be clear about what we want and the way that we ask for it. If we rush, and let's face it, you know, we're all vulnerable to that, aren't we, when our trigger points get hit, then we are likely to overreact, and that's the time at which women particularly have to be very careful, because who wants to be labelled bolshy or a bitch just because you've reacted slightly too quickly with what you wanted to say?
I have to say the most effective assertiveness that puts me on the back foot is when someone, and particularly women, will say, I can't give you an answer right now. I will give you one in X amount of hours or by the end of the week or something like that. And I've tried using that strategy and it's super empowering, but it also makes you sound really organised and also buys yourself a bit of time, doesn't it?
I totally agree. If you look at anybody who's a good leader, you'll find that they can use that pause strategy, or you don't have to know the answer in the moment, and in fact you don't. So it's almost better to buy yourself some time and to take yourself away, calm down, think about what you want to say and then present it well.
Sports psychologist Karen Nimmo on assertiveness. There's also a bit of assertiveness that's happening around the Men's Football World Cup, particularly with the inclusion of women, which is brilliant.
Yes, so BBC and ITV, who are the English outlets that are covering the game, that you have it's comprehensive coverage there over in England, and so BBC have one of their football pundits there. That you have your panel of ex-players and commentators. One of the contributors they have is Alex Scott, who is a woman player. She's had about 140 caps for England and has just recently retired, and her commentary and observation of the game was just fantastic. Probably helps that she's a journalist as well, so she can take a lot of that sporting terminology and that headspace that you're in as a player and communicate that to an audience who are watching the football game. BBC have taken a progressive step, a more progressive step, by getting a woman in the play-by-play commentary box. So Vicky Sparks was one of the commentators during the Portugal-Morocco game, and as usual, when you do something new, there's comments pro and there's comments against, and one of the comments against was from a former Tottenham and Chelsea player, Jason Cundy, who said on an ITV breakfast show that he didn't like that women's voices get higher as they get more excited, and that wasn't his cup of tea, and has consequently had to stuff an enormous piece of humble pie into his mouth and apologise profusely for saying that. And I have to say, as someone who's been watching a lot of games, the men aren't that great at times either. One of them, Martin O'Neill, basically had a brain explosion, a moment of apoplexy over VAR, which is, of course, the video assistant referee that they're trialling out in this World Cup. And he basically had to be calmed down by his co-commentator because he's just like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe it. And just this morning I was watching some commentary where a commentator was really reaching with his metaphors about how the first half of the Argentina-Iceland game was like reading 200 pages of Dostoevsky or Nabokov or Tolstoy.
And you're like, okay, all right, okay.
Would Vicky Sparks do that? I don't think so.
That's a really good point. What would Vicky Sparks do?
That's right. I don't know. I can keep going on about some of the coverage as well. There was Eni Aluko, who is currently playing for Juventus, another England player who was on ITV and got clapped for her analysis by Patrice Evra, who's a French player who was just, wow, she knows more than us.
So are these women in the commentary team, they're actually being accepted into the ranks of the commentary team, or are they being ignored as well?
Oh, no, they're definitely part of it. I think that the hosts are doing a really great job to get everyone included. And also, let's not make this just an exclusively woman issue. You also have international players where English may not be their first language. Also, you're getting players to talk about something they do. And as you know, athletes sometimes are more internal in terms of how they react rather than being able to use words to describe it that someone like a couch potato or an amateur player like me may understand. Also, I know this is a podcast based in New Zealand, so I have also done some research for the coverage across the ditch.
Oh, yes.
Because Australia, of course, were in one of the groups there, and unfortunately they haven't made it through to the round of 16.
Oh, wow, that's a shame.
But they actually played really well, and
Good.
I think they did deserve some points, so it is a shame that they've gone out the way they have. They definitely gave it against against France and Denmark. Those were really quite exciting games to watch. But anyway, Lucy Zelic, who is one of the SBS presenters there, has been getting some flack for pronouncing the some of the non-English names correctly.
Are you serious?
As only they would in Australia.
In sport, they get it wrong a lot.
Oh, they do get it wrong a lot. But it's not like the NFL where they had an advertisement where they got families to completely butcher some of the Pacifica names, which for entertainment.
So she's getting slack because she's actually pronouncing names correctly.
Yeah, but then the late SBS broadcaster and cult legend Les Murray was considered such a forerunner and an icon for pronouncing the names properly.
Well, there you go. Let's move on. As many of you will know, June is Pride Month, celebrating LGBTQI+, and many sports teams and associations are doing their bit to show their support for the community. The New Zealand rugby team, the All Blacks, have started wearing black jerseys that turn to rainbows when pulled. I really want to have one of those. They're so cool. And now the Central Pulse netball team, which is my local, are lacing up for the ANZ Premiership game. Pulse and Silver Ferns shooter Ameliaranne Ekenasio has been the driving force behind getting the team to wear rainbow laces. Kia ora, Amelia. How are you?
Kia ora, I'm good, thanks.
So why have you been pushing to get the Pulse to wear rainbow laces?
Look, I just think it's a really important thing for us to stand up for, really just inclusion of everyone in sport, no matter what. It's really timely for us to all wear them, and we've got a really big voice, so I think it's good that we use it for really doing good in the community.
Is netball quite open and accepting of the LGBTQI+ community?
Yeah, I would say so, but we probably just don't really talk about it that much. So we're definitely very accepting, so I think it's time for us to really make a stand for it.
It's a traditional feminine sport, Yadana. You know, you wear your netball skirts and it was set up for women by women.
So they'd stop playing basketball, which is too masculine and aggressive.
I guess, traditionally it reinforces traditional femininity and heterosexuality as well. But What about sexual identity within netball? It's more than just heterosexual, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, I think that's why it's important that we talk about it, because there's probably a lot more girls out there. But not only that, there's a lot of boys that play the sport as well too. So we just want to make it just more open. I mean, I know we play in skirts and stuff and that, but like, hey, why not? Let's talk about more options.
At my daughter's primary school, they've got boys playing in the team, and so for the first time, the parents had to decide what are they going to wear as a uniform. So now everyone's allowed to wear shorts, so you don't have to wear those grody netball undies under a short skirt anymore, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah,
great.
And so will you be wearing the laces throughout the remainder of the season, or is it just for one game?
Well, we had started as a whole team. I mean, I think it was really cool that the whole team jumped on board for it. So most of us will probably wear it for the rest of the season, because I think it's something important that will carry through. But some of the girls might change their laces over. We always joke about that it brings a lot of attention to our feet and umpires. So
True.
Some of the girls might take it out, but I'd say most of us will just keep them in. So.
Amelia, let's like to pick up back on the uniform of netball. My experience of netball is that it's quite an officious sport, and so to make changes to the uniform, that's quite a big deal within netball, I feel. So if you're in rugby, you can, deck out your headgear or do something with your tape and things like that. But in netball, it's quite, I don't know if it's a written code, but certainly there's an ideal that everyone should look the same and stick with the uniform, right?
Yes, no, you're 100% right. So it's always been like that, and I don't know why. I think it's we're a little bit too proper sometimes with things like that. So, yeah, we definitely have to go through a few checks to make sure that no one was annoyed about what we were doing and everyone was all on board. So, yeah, we had to make sure that it was all okay with quite a few people before we wore them, which was kind of ridiculous because we were going to wear them regardless. So, yeah, it is a big thing, I guess. So maybe we might see, a few more teams jumping on board, things like this. And there's probably other ways we can support other good causes as well, just by changing little things. So we still all wear the same colours. We still all wear the same uniforms. So
will we see the Silver Ferns wearing it?
Oh, I hope so. I'd really like to see it. Silver Ferns have a really big voice and a big reach in our community. So it'd be really cool if we can see them stand up for what's important.
What would happen if you just slipped in some rainbow laces onto your Silver Ferns footwear or had a rainbow hair tie or something like that?
Well, I think hair ties would be fine. That's no worries at all. We spoke to ASICS and they're all on board as well. So, I mean, they're all on board for including everyone in sport. So, yeah, I guess that would just be a conversation we'd have to have with them again. But I don't see there being an issue. There shouldn't be an issue with it at all.
That was Pulse and Silver Fern shooter Ameliaranne Ekenasio, LGBTQI brothers and sisters in sport. I think it's an important thing that we talk about, and it's becoming more acceptable to talk about this in the sporting environment. We're changing the way that sport is structured and the sociology of it. What are you finding in football?
I was going to say nothing. Well, actually, since we're sticking with the World Cup, I thought I could talk about the fans and some of the movements that people are trying to get started there.
Yes.
So for example, Iran and I believe Saudi Arabia, since they've been under Islamic rule, do not allow women in their stadia.
Yeah.
And so in order to do so, a lot of young Iranian women football fans have had to dress up as men to go into the games. However, in Russia, it was the first time for some families that they could attend their games as a family. Now, unfortunately, Iran have been knocked out for the round of 16, but in their group games, women were actually allowed to attend because the games are in Russia. And now, of course, I'm not excusing Russia's conduct as a host or as a government or a culture that is particularly warm to LGBTQI plus to their community there. But certainly with the Iranian women, there was a moment where there were a few banners unfurled saying "Let Iranian women enter their stadiums" or the hashtag "No Ban for Women." So this has caught the attention of FIFA, the Head of FIFA, Gianni Infantini, of course, holding the Iranian president to task about this issue and to see some movement there to allow women into the stadium.
Well, we love inclusivity, and Yadana, have you ever heard of pickleball?
Sure haven't.
According to the USA Pickleball Association, the sport is exploding and it's made its way to our shores. The sport, which is kind of like tennis with a twist, even has its own online channel. Yes, really. It was first invented in 1965 as a family game and has rules in place to even the playing field, meaning it's a mixed gender and mixed ability sport. It first arrived in Auckland in the past few years and is now spread across the North Island with various clubs popping up. But what is it actually, and why is it one of the fastest growing sports in the country? Pickleball New Zealand co-ordinator Olga Seiki is with us. Kia ora, Olga. What is pickleball?
Pickleball is a really great family game, as you said, and it's a combination of badminton, tennis and ping pong. We like to say that it's like playing ping pong on steroids. So we play on a badminton court, so it's like a cut-down version of tennis. It's a great sport that any age can play. It's really great for mixed abilities, but it's a very easy game to learn, but very, very hard to master.
You said that it's like on a badminton court, but cut down. Is the net high like a badminton court, or is it low like a tennis net? You know, what's the go?
It's like a smaller version of tennis. So we have the net lowered, and it's about just short of 5 centimetres lower than a tennis net, but we use the standard badminton court lines. And then it plays very like a tennis game, but just with underhand serves and a plastic ball. A little bit bigger than a tennis ball with holes in it. In America, they call that a wiffle ball, and lightweight paddles.
What are some of the rules, and why are they the way that they are?
Well, the rules were invented specifically to make the game very easy to learn and easy to play with multi-ages and multi-abilities. So it's just underhand serves. Anybody can do that. Lollipop serves are fine. Then we have what's called the double bounce rule. So instead of tennis where you serve the ball, it bounces once, and then you can do serve and smash. We have the ball bounce once, then the returner hits again, and the ball has to bounce a second time. That just gets the rally going, so it just makes easy for everybody to get involved. And then we have what's called the non-volley zone. So the short service line of a badminton court, about roughly 2 metres odd back from the net. Between that zone and the net, we call that the kitchen, the slang. It's like a hot zone. It means that if the ball bounces in there, you can go in and hit the ball, but you can't stand in that zone close up to the net and smash the ball down. And the idea for that is if you've got big, tall people who are right up in front of the net, they can't be intimidating and smash the ball down to the other side. It just makes the game a little bit more fair and a little bit more about skills and tactics and placement rather than just who's biggest and strongest.
Is it competitive?
It is highly competitive. And I would say that it's highly addictive as well. So the feedback that we get, obviously we've got people playing in New Zealand, but we get lots of regular visitors from the States and Canada. And, I mean, people just are totally addicted. I mean, they often play at least 4 times a week. We've got some great tournaments happening, not just in New Zealand, but overseas. It's the kind of thing where people love to win, but it's also a very social game as well. And it's, as I said, it's hard to master. So it's the kind of thing that you can play socially, but if you want to win, it just keeps you going and going.
How do you win in pickleball?
It's first to 11, so
Right.
if people are familiar with that, it's the old badminton scoring. So you can score points from the server's side, but the first side, so we usually play doubles. You can play singles as well. Most people play doubles. So it's first to 11, win by 2.
And it's kind of spread from Auckland, and now you've got clubs in Northland and then down in Hawke's Bay as well. Why is it spreading so quickly?
Well, it actually first started in Rotorua in 2015.
In Rotorua, of all places.
Yeah. Rotorua, that was where the original couple, Claire and David, who we're very grateful to, started Pickleball New Zealand. They had picked the game up in the States where they had been living and working. They're also top badminton players, so they brought the game to New Zealand, one, because they thought it would be a fabulous thing to help roll out in New Zealand, and they did that as volunteers, so we're very grateful to them, but also as a way to support badminton halls and clubs around the country who might have been struggling a little bit financially, because we do play on badminton courts. You play outdoors as well. That hasn't so much taken off yet. We've got a couple of places playing outdoors, and they play outdoors a lot in the States. But for weather, particularly in Auckland, as you know, it rains a lot. It tends to be quite convenient if you can play indoors.
Yeah.
So they started there, started the website, and then basically set up communication channels. So for anybody who'd either picked the game up in the States, and that basically is how one of the ways that it's grown. People travel, they see the game, play the game, they absolutely fall in love with it, come back to New Zealand and say, hey, where can I play this, or where can I start up a club? Get hold of Pickleball New Zealand, and we can provide resources for that, so promotional flyers and logos and, help with kind of getting gear, all that kind of thing, so we can kind of help buddy people with how to start your own group.
Mm-hmm. Is there an international tournament for pickleball? Is there like the Pickleball World Cup?
Absolutely. We have, it's the same as, as usual. We have the US Open, and then they do have World Championships now as well. So they're mostly played in the States. There are other invitational tournaments around the world. We've had somebody, I think it was last year, go to Spain. So the tournament scene is very, very big. People just love to travel and meet people. As I said, pickleball's a very social sport. So honestly, in the States, people literally, they jump in their Winnebagos and they just travel the country doing pickleball tournaments.
That sounds like so much fun. Thank you so much, Olga. And if you want to know more, you can go to pickleball.org.nz. I think I want to give this a go. It sounds like lots of fun.
I'd also like to give a shout out to the volunteers.
Yes.
Who keep things like pickleball going or introduce pickleball to us. Those stalwarts of the minor sports. I doff my cap to you.
Yep.
Yes, we're all volunteer at the moment, so Pickleball New Zealand is just a volunteer organisation, and absolutely shout out to all the people who've started clubs up and down the country. That's just purely, for the love of the game and for the love of the community. To get it going here in New Zealand, we're having great results. So we've got 16 clubs now up and down the country.
Wow.
With more opening all the time. We're right up from Kerikeri right down to Nelson. We're hopefully starting soon in Christchurch, but other than that, it's all volunteer-based at this stage.
Pickleball New Zealand coordinator Olga Seiki. Oh, well, that sounds like lots of fun, Yadana. And guess what? We're running out of time. So we have
about full time. No extra time here.
No extra time here, but it can't be fair play without a mention of cricket. The White Ferns are doing really, really well over in the UK in the Tri-Series against England and South Africa. They've lost a couple of games, but that's fine. They're off to the T20 competition in November, so they're peaking. Hopefully they'll peak at the right time. And the pool has been announced. They're in with Australia, Pakistan and India. What are your thoughts for that pool?
That sounds like what I would call the group of death.
Yes. Yeah. Australia's going to be tough. India have improved vastly over the last few years. And actually, I wouldn't write off Pakistan.
No, I wouldn't either.
They've got a Kiwi coach who I know quite well, and he doesn't take any crap. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I think we'll probably finish second in that pool, and I think overall maybe in the top 4. It would be great to see us win. And also, toilet update, because we just absolutely love the toilets at the Basin Reserve. I managed to get in touch with the Wellington City Council. They announced last month a $7 million investment in upgrading the clock stand, which includes the toilets as well. They have told me, project manager Warwick Hayes has said that they are currently upgrading the ground to provide a suitable level of service for international cricket matches and other events. They say there is sufficient toilets at the ground for modest events already, but this will be improved by the new or refurbished facilities as they are progressing with their design. Asset project manager Jacqueline Murray says the majority of the time we make the facilities any gender accessible cubicles rather than male female so that they can be used by anyone, and that is around the city. But there have been demands to have separate facilities that can be taken into account as well. A prime example is on Courtney Place, which is what's the best way to describe it? It's like full of nightclubs on a Saturday night where they've got 6 individual gender cubicles and a urinal room for men only, and because they found the high volume of traffic of males, especially late on weekend evenings. She also says traditionally in sports pavilions there have been male-female specific, but what they're doing over time is while they're upgrading sports pavilions around the city, they've added non-gender specific toilet cubicles to facilities so that anyone can be used by any gender. I'm interested to continue to see what they do here. The fact that they say that they've got sufficient toilets on the ground for modest events already.
I'm sure there's a specific definition for modest events.
Yeah, well. Anyway, we'll keep you posted on updates, and that's it for this month.
Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Yadana, oh my goodness, I think I need a cup of tea and a lie down after that.
You need to go play some pickleball.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much to Karen Nimmo, Ameliaranne Ekenasio, and Olga Seiki. And thank you so much to my co-host, multi-talented Yadana Saw. Please come back.
Thanks for having me.
It's lovely having you. If you want more of us, which of course you do, you can find us on rnz.co.nz and wispsports.com, and on Facebook and Twitter at RNZ, at wispsports, and at producer_Zoe. I'm Zoe George. Thanks again, and don't forget to play hard but play fair.
Thank you to our brand sponsors at Wisp Sports Radio. Please visit them at highlands.com/ear-pain.